Okay, start the podcast.
Welcome to the Campfire Curmudgeon podcast.
I'm Heidi, and with me is...
Nicholas Edward Jones.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to read some listener stories, and we actually even have some fun listener voicemails that we are going to actually play for you. We haven't read these stories, and we haven't listened to these, so you're going to experience these at the same time as us.
This show is all audience driven.
All right, so...
You're welcome, or I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you can't blame us.
Your new mail is in.
Ooh, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to read our first story. This was sent in from Chris. And Chris says...
Chris, is this the Chris we had as a guest?
This is the Chris we had as a guest.
It's Chris Day.
It's Chris Day?
And we had Chris, who was a guest on, I think, our episode 2, Astral Projection.
He was on Astral Projection,
Yes.
Yeah.
Episode 2 or 3.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Just take your word for it.
Chris is also my podcast co-host for the John Carpenter Cast, Auteur Theory, and Film Bar Presents.
Indeed. And Chris has had some pretty cool paranormal experiences. This was when he sent us a while
Your
back.
words, not mine.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, Chris.
Interesting.
I like this one.
Okay.
So Chris says...
Thank you, Chris, for writing.
Anyways, if I could, every time I go to start...
The floor is yours. I'm sorry, do you need a minute? Do you need a glass of water? A sip?
No, I'm good. I don't
Do you
need
have
a
a
sip
tickle
of
in
your
your throat?
vodka. I'm fine.
Yeah. All right, now I feel sad.
Now you feel sad. Now we all know why he's giggling so much over there.
I'm giggling.
Well, you're smiling.
Which is great for the podcast audience.
I'm describing it to them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Nicholas Jones is sitting across from me wearing a shirt with Jimi Hendrix on it.
Okay, can I interject?
He's interjecting.
Today, I was in a public place with my niece, and we are on the escalator, and in front of us is an older couple. There was this man in his, I would guess his 60s, because he had a white goatee and a white facial hair. He turns around and he goes, Hendrix, huh? When did you see him live? And I go, I'm 35. He died before I was born. He goes, oh, so you just like wearing the T-shirt, huh? And I go, no, they recorded his music. I listened to his music. Maybe if you go back and found those, you'd maybe vote differently. I don't know. Never mind. But yeah, it was just
just like the T-shirt, huh? I bet you like Beatles T-shirts too, don't you, kid?
It infuriated me because on the one hand he's right, and you can buy this shirt at Target, which I did. Yes, I could also buy. You could also buy on the same rack in Target, like The Doors, Pink Floyd, blah blah blah. They're in the men's section, and it's just like, I like old bands.
You should just start doing what I do when people ask me stuff like that, when they get sassy, like, oh, that was around before you. And they say with me, like, my cassette player or something, I go, oh, no, this was from my other life, right before the car hit me. And they're like, what? And a lot of the time, that'll just shut people up. They're like, when did you see? Next time somebody says that, like, when did you see Hendrix live? Well, that was in my last life before the accident.
Right.
Now I'm 35, but back then I was 26 when I saw him live.
Or just like, oh, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to see Hendrix live, but I live in an age where also things aren't, like, desegregation happened. Sorry, things aren't always the good old days, and I'm not a poser for wearing a Hendrix shirt.
All right. I'm going to try to take control of this podcast.
I'm a phony for other reasons. Anyway, my diversion, go along. It's your
Pour
show.
yourself another drink while I tell this story.
Okay. Here's a...
Stop it! Don't.
Yeah, can't
You're
do
getting
audio
water on the mic.
Oh, no, I didn't. I did not.
No vodka on the mic.
No.
All right. Anyways, Chris says...
It's a Moscow mule.
Stop
okay?
it! Stop! Driving me crazy.
All right, I'm turning your mic
This
down.
happened... Oh, my God, did you really?
No.
Turn me back up. You just turned me down.
No, it didn't. I faked like I did.
Ooh, you're going to get
Look
it.
at us at the same angle. It means
Chris
we're the same
says,
level.
this happened when I was in high school and working at a Suncoast DVD store. Since gone out of business. This was at the Superstition Springs Mall in Mesa, Arizona. It was a slow day, and I had just gone into the back room. It's got a very high ceiling and a sort of ledge over where the bathroom was, and we use that ledge for storage. I was alone back there when I heard a sound from the ledge. I turned to see this creature looking down at me. It was crouching like it knew it had been caught. It was small, humanoid, scrawny, with grayish skin and big yellow eyes. The closest thing I could describe it as is Gollum from Lord of the Rings, but it wasn't quite that, and it didn't look like a traditional gray alien either. Although his description does kind of sound like a gray, don't you think?
Little bit. I think that's a reach.
You don't think maybe he's seeing what they were seeing out in Stardust?
Like, hey, in the drop ceiling, hanging out, just like waiting to get his hands on the new Tarantino movie.
Hey, you never know. And he says that.
I mean, at least the aliens have good taste. They're hanging out at Suncoast. They're not at Hot Topic.
They're not at Blockbuster. All right. Well, I was like, what are you trying to say? Even though it didn't do anything threatening, when I saw it, the sheer otherworldliness made my blood run cold. After a second or two of staring at it, I bolted out of the room. I didn't tell anyone about it because they would think I was crazy. I just tried my best to convince myself that I had imagined it and that it hadn't really happened. But I wouldn't go back into that room alone for weeks. If I'd used the restroom, I'd wait till my lunch break and use the food court restroom. Sometime later, I had mostly repressed the experience, and we had an inventory day. I was with several people in the back room. My manager told me to climb up to the ledge to bring down some racks. I did it, but I was terrified. I couldn't tell anyone why. When I got up there, I found this air conditioning vent in the wall. The grate had been torn off. Not just fallen off, it looked like it had been twisted and bent, and it was all scratched up, leaving an open hole in the ventilation system. It was dusty, so it had been like that for a while. I don't have any kind of explanation for what this was. I don't know if you could call it a paranormal experience or extraterrestrial or what. I've never heard anyone talk about strange things happening at that mall. It's just your basic suburban shopping mall. But it was the strangest thing that I've ever experienced.
In Arizona. It was like, oh, it's your basic shopping mall. In Arizona. Like, parentheses. That's a huge parentheses.
Is that different?
It's probably like a javelina.
Or Javelina.
Or like a mall.
No, do you know what mall he said?
Or
this
maybe,
is Superstition Springs Mall.
Superstition Springs Mall.
When I was,
So it might have, it was probably a Mallvalina.
This is before you lived here. When I was a kid, that was like the mall to go on.
Note to listener, I moved here in 2011.
Yes. If you were in the East Valley and you didn't want to go, it was the mall where all of the kids from the high schools where I went to, a lot of the East Valley kids, we would get dropped off there by our parents and stay there all day.
Sure.
They had like a little.
You want to go to Fiesta Mall? No, that mall's dying.
Yeah,
now it's dead.
This mall was more like where the kids hung out. Like you would get dropped off. They had like a
Cheesecake
dollar movie
Factory.
theater. Well, they had a cheap movie theater. It was like $1 or $2 tickets. They had a carousel that you were never too old for because that's fun. They had this like giant slide that was made to look like a giant gecko or like a Gila monster or something. You would slide down its back. It was super cool. And so we would all kind of hang out and climb on the rocks where you weren't supposed to climb and get yelled at by mall security.
Gosh, get down.
Yeah. And just you'd like hang out all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty typical mall. I mean, I've been to malls at other places. There's not that big of a difference. I don't know. Has Omaha got special malls that we don't know about?
There's the Gene Leahy Mall, and that's kind of like Omaha Central Park. There's the Crossroads Mall, which is the dead mall. It's right in the middle of town.
Are these different than a typical suburban mall?
It's like the Crossroads Mall, for those listening in the Midwest, is like the Fiesta Mall here, where it's like, oh, there's like one store. There's a Sears.
Well,
Sears is about
when
to
I was
die.
younger, Fiesta Mall wasn't. Yeah. It was thriving a little bit more, but it wasn't as close to where everybody lived, so it wasn't.
And there's the Oakview Mall, which is the West Omaha Mall. That's where it used to be the hoity-toity mall.
Oh, I see.
But now the hoity-toity mall is Village Point, which is the outdoor mall in West Omaha. It's even further west, so that means it's better.
Oh, I see.
And then there's the Westroads Mall, which is kind of the anchor mall.
We have like one outdoor mall here, and they were like, what were we thinking when it's 110 and nobody wants to shop?
There's 2 outdoor malls here.
I guess there are 2, not...
There's Tempe
I don't really think of Tempe Marketplace as a mall.
Oh, what were you thinking of?
It's a marketplace. I'm talking about the Santan Mall.
Oh, the Sand
It's
Town Mall's an
actual.
outdoor?
It's basically just like it had
Then I
all the
was-
same stores as Superstition, but it's outside. So you go from one store and you're like parasol, hat, sunscreen, run through the 110 degrees.
Baking.
Because that one, depending on
Preheat the oven, open the door.
well, depending on what
that's
store
what
you want
feel.
to go to, you're like. My parents never wanted to drop my sister off there because they're like, the food court, first off, they closed because they were going to redo it. So, and it's so hot out, and it's like, it's an open mall, so it's just even, they were like, even more like, ooh, it's unsafe. So she ended up going to Superstition all the time and hanging out at the mall where I used to hang out.
Well, in point of fact, like, that's the other thing is I want to mention, like, Desert Ridge. Desert
Yeah.
Ridge is on the north end of the
It's-
101,
yes.
by almost kind of by Anthem. It's like
Mm-hmm.
like North Scottsdale. It's almost a mirror image of Tempe Marketplace.
Yeah, but that's a marketplace. It's
Yeah.
like, it's a strip mall. It's not.
It's a mall.
It's not as
no,
much.
it's not a strip mall. It's
Yeah.
got like strip mall attachments.
Yeah.
But the main walkway. I mean, here's the funny thing.
What's the funny thing?
Today we went to. I took my niece to Tempe Marketplace because
Yes.
they're like, hey, we have ice skating. And
Oh, did they have it there too?
They don't have ice skating. They have skating. And,
Oh.
and what it is they
Okay.
laid down these like. Do you know that puzzle piece?
Yeah,
like
the foam
lattice work,
stuff.
the foam
Mhm.
stuff that you put in like a playroom.
Mhm.
They had that, but it was the kind of stuff you could put on ice skates and skate on. It was slick.
What?
Yes, it's about half an inch thick, and there's no ice. There's no
Wow,
refrigeration.
I'm just like, this is insane.
If you go there, it's like we walked up. I'm like, oh yeah, they're supposed to have ice skating. And we walked in, and I'm like, oh, they have skating, and it's basically like you
But
see.
were they
them-
rollerblades or were
no,
they ice
you
skates?
saw kids like putting
Blades?
on ice skates.
That's insane.
With, like,
I've not seen that.
like ice skate blades, and it's this material that's made of this like checkerboard that is
No, yeah.
not refrigerated. It's
We just went to like the skating rinks that were indoors here.
Right, and
I
then-
didn't know they had anything like that.
So then, like later on in the day, after we were done with the aquarium, I was like, "Hey, do you want to like drive downtown?" So I
Ooh, aquarium, dolphins don't belong in the desert.
Okay, yeah.
Boycott.
yeah, for ethical reasons.
Mad at you now.
Okay. But we drove downtown, and they had an actual ice rink next to City Walk because they had like the
Yeah,
refrigerated.
because that one,
yeah,
that as far as I know, they do actually refrigerate it and
yes,
put ice down.
You could, like we walked past it when we went to trivia, or at least I did when like we got off the light rail between City Walk and like Washington or
Yeah.
Van Buren.
I think they do more than one, but they have one
They
right
basically like you could see that they were laying the place for it. They wouldn't
there. It
be
looks like it because I've seen
Yeah.
that. I haven't seen it actually set
that's
up.
how it
at-
could be 82 degrees outside.
Yeah, I've seen
and-
pictures
yeah.
of them doing it, and I thought it was real ice, but I did see it being put together, so I don't know, but it looked like it had
But the
refrigeration.
Tempe Marketplace one, not even ice.
I
It's
have to go check that out. I'm
it's-
so intrigued.
It's this special material that you
I
can
like
ice
how we went
skate
from
on.
talking about scary creatures
Yes.
to ice skating in malls.
So Malvalinas is
Malvalina.
that's Malvalinas is more
I think-
plausible than
But that's so
gray
creepy,
aliens
though.
hanging out of
Hey, you never know.
Suncoast.
But isn't it creepy that when he went up there, the vent was off?
That's what I'm saying. It's like
What if it was like a cat with mange or something?
raccoons have fingers.
I've not seen a raccoon anywhere near Superstition.
True.
Okay, do you know where Superstition is?
Yes.
Do you? You know where that mall is?
Is it at the same
So it's
town
like if you were
type?
coming to where I live, instead of getting off on the Val Vista exit, if
Uh-huh.
you go a few more exits,
Lindsay Power.
if you go past Greenfield, past to like basically if you go to the Superstition exit, the mall's right there.
Okay. No,
The
I haven't.
Power.
I
It's
haven't.
right there. It's not out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, no, it's
out in the middle of old
mid-city.
people town.
Yeah.
It's like right there, old people Mesa.
It's Apache Junction adjacent.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
Not that far.
Anyway, thank you, Chris, for the submission.
I think that's so funny because it's just like that's the mall I hung out in, and who knows? Maybe there was all sorts of creepy things that we were missing. I feel like it could be a cat or something though, just like a mange, like a cat with mange or something, because cats will crawl into the tiniest little things that you don't think they
Yes,
can
they'll
fit
flatten
into.
like mice,
Yeah.
and they'll shapeshift, and then they'll look at you like condescendingly, like, "What have you done with your life?" Excuse me a moment, I'm going to lick my butthole. But what have you done with your
And
life?
well, I judge you. Sounds like Dante.
Just describing the cat behavior.
Yeah, I was
And
like, are you
just-
describing my cat?
Not
That's
specifically.
my
This is-
cat specifically.
This is just cats.
Okay.
And why I don't have one walking around here.
Raise
right
your
now.
hand if you've been personally victimized by my cat Dante. You're raising your hand. I know
Okay.
you have. Well, let's actually I have another submission here, but let's play a voicemail.
Yes.
Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
It looks like this voicemail probably got cut off, ran out of time, so it's broken up into two. So I'm gonna play one right after the other, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
We'll fix it in post.
Hey, this is Angel Mallory. Have a couple ghost stories for you, or more like paranormal presence stories. Start off with the first one. When I was a kid, about 8 years old, I saw something kind of floating in the shower. It was like lime green, and it kind of shaped like a head, and it was floating around the bathroom.
No.
And I told my mom about it, and she was like, "Oh, you probably just saw a headlight. No big deal." And then, we moved houses about a year later, and I saw something. It looked like a pair of legs sprinting around the house, and the same color, same vibe, everything. Didn't really see it after that, but it was kind of scary because we moved, an hour and a half away, and it was still there. Second one, let me see. So, wow, I lost my train of thought. Second one, my sisters actually in the same house where I saw the green pair of legs. I heard them scream, and then I went into their bedroom. They said that they saw a dark shadow and something going around their room. Their room had been perfectly clean when they went to bed, and then the VeggieTales VHS tape was out of its box, just standing up vertically in the middle of their room.
Oh, that's creepy.
And the VHS tape was "Where's God When I'm Scared?" from VeggieTales.
Wow.
Another one, my mom said that she used to have this demon follow her in the shape of a rabbit with red eyes, and it kept saying it was going to kill her. Now we kind of know those are actually called skinwalkers.
Can you rewind that a second?
Yeah,
my friend.
Just a few seconds.
Let's see.
Now we kind of know those are actually called skinwalkers.
Sounds like she's talking about skinwalkers. Oh my goodness.
Of a rabbit with red eyes, and it kept saying it was going to kill her. Now we kind of know those are actually called skinwalkers, but
Run away!
my friend was talking to me. I didn't tell him anything about my mom's story with the rabbit, but he was telling me that he saw this little girl that was all black with red eyes sitting on a staircase, also a skinwalker. It was very strange. I told him later, I was like, you just described everything that my mom had saw when she was a child, and I was really creeped out and was like, all right, let's go ahead and go back to the car. And as we're walking back to the car, this rabbit stopped. It was hopping across my path. It stopped about halfway through the road, looked at me for a while, and then kept going. That was a little scary. And then the last one, I know I have better ones, but the last one, I came home, my mom's current house, my little brother looked up at me and he goes, "Oh, there's an old lady in the bathroom downstairs." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, where I have to sleep and stuff." And apparently my mom's house is haunted, but it's benevolent ghost. She actually ratted my sister out for smoking in the basement, and told my mom about it from upstairs. And
okay, that's where she gets cut off, so I'll go ahead and play the next one. But that's so funny. She said the ghost is ratting out her sister for smoking. That is so funny.
Excuse me, young lady. I think your smoking is inappropriate.
What is that?
You're a ghost?
All right, let's pick up here.
Hi, Angel again. This is continuation. So after the ghost in my mom's basement ratted out my sister for smoking, I guess she also pulled down one of my sister's friends, pulled him down the staircase because he had kind of something evil attached to him and he knew about it. And so it was very strange for him to be pulled down the stairs.
Wow.
So I was actually asking, my mom asked her not to show herself to me, and I was downstairs in the basement recording albums, and I was like, you know what, I wonder if she'd show herself to me if I asked. And so I asked her to, and sure enough, I saw her, this maybe 4'5". It was just kind of a little human shaped, almost like you couldn't see the details, but just kind of darkened to where you could make it out being a person. Kind of cool. She's benevolent, but pretty cool. Like, bye, have fun.
Well, thank you, Angel, for
Wow.
sharing.
So she had a lot of really cool stories. Sound like she grew up in a haunted house. Well, what's interesting, the first story, she sees what she thinks it's like. It's green, and then she sees these green legs later on that seem to follow her
like
to the next house.
She's like, oh, a lime green, and I'm like, oh, lime green thing in the shower. Oh, a head? Like
Yeah,
a
I was
skull?
like,
that's
kind of creepy.
Yeah, and then later it's like, I saw...
And later she sees legs that then seem to follow her to the next house.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
You've ever been showering on a shower, like in a bathroom that like is attached to? It's not in the center of the house, like basically it has windows.
Yeah, that's
And
like my master bedroom.
Right.
But it's into my backyard,
or where
so
you
it's
can
less
see
creepy.
into like the backyard
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
mine.
And then also you're just hearing noises from outside that window.
That's what sucks about showering at night there, is all of like the neighbor cats and weirdness, and I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, just like
Like, I don't really know how tinted this window is. I'm good. I'll just shower in the morning.
somebody's totally like getting off on the idea of my face.
Of my head.
just
I know, even though
just
it's like,
head.
my head
Like,
is all you
they
can
can't
see.
me naked. But
Well, what's so funny is my mom was always so paranoid about that when we were little. Like, they'll see you showering. I'm like, Mom, all they can see is your head. We had, so stupid. We had an upstairs bathroom in my parents' house growing up that my brother, sister, and I shared. And there was like a little window, and my mom put up basically like a shower curtain that she cut to fit the window.
Mhm.
And my dad was always like, it's fine, it's so high up, and all you can see is someone's head. There's not a 2-story next to them, it was a 1-story. So looking up,
And then they put bay windows or French
To, like-
doors on their bedroom. Or
even then, no, like looking up at the window, all you'd be able to see is my head, and then eventually when my brother grew his head, you know what my mom said?
What?
Satellites and airplanes could look down from above into the window and see us showering. And I was like, you know what?
Well, I mean, in that case, what are we all doing?
You know what?
What-
That's what I
what
said.
the-
I told my mom, I was like, if they want to see me showering that badly,
Yeah.
good for them.
Like,
they earned it.
Mesa
Like,
Foxtrot has
go
FLIR. They
for
can
it.
see where I'm at in my house. They
Go
can,
for it.
Like, hey, guess what? The guy's on his patio, or like he's.
I don't care,
like-
but that just reminded me of that. She was so crazy paranoid about that. It was just the weirdest thing. We're like, Mom, it's fine.
Yeah.
No one's using a satellite to watch me shower, and I don't care if they are. I don't care at that point. But so she had that happen.
So that happened,
And then-
but then
the rabbit skinwalker. So not only did her mom see this, but then a friend of hers saw the same thing.
yeah.
That's pretty creepy, and I would definitely move at that point.
Yeah, but what if like you sunk a lot into the down payment? I just bought a house, and if it's haunted, I'm gonna have to make peace, right? Like it's one
That's
of those
not haunted. Skinwalkers are something entirely different.
Okay, yeah, because it's like, oh, it's a rabbit. Oh, it has red eyes. Oh, it's a skinwalker. Okay.
Do you know about the Skinwalker legends?
They're Navajo, and they're not supposed to talk about it.
Yes, we're not supposed to talk about it, and it creeps me out so bad
What?
because I've lived here in Arizona my whole life.
Mhm.
I've had some experiences. You don't talk about them, which we are, so now I'm screwed.
Okay.
I'm glad I'm not driving home alone. Don't. It's somebody that's a healer, or what some people call a witch. It's somebody who has an ability to disguise themselves as an animal. So they take the skin. In some legends, they need the skin
I will
of the
take the
animal.
form of dung beetle.
No, something scarier. It's a lot of the time it's a wolf or
Scarab
coyote.
beetle.
I'm not sure why they choose a rabbit, but that's pretty terrifying.
Does it have to be a mammal?
I don't know.
I mean, what if you fuck up your curse and you turn yourself into a dolphin in the middle of the desert?
It doesn't work like that. From most of the stories that I
Take
heard,
the form of sea lion.
well, when I was a kid, you had to have the skin.
Hmm.
So I assume if you killed a coyote, you're not like, wait, is this a seal? I'm concerned this could be the wrong thing.
Is this seal? Is this seal?
No. That's pretty creepy. I feel like I'm losing my voice. I should make you read the next story. Do you hear this? I'm sorry, everybody.
Just turn you up.
Oh, you're going to turn me up so I
I'm
sound
gonna
even worse.
turn
You
your-
can hear me clearing my throat
Yeah,
extra
no,
loud.
I'm turning your treble down. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, I've mixed you. You sound good.
All better.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to read another story here. This one is submitted anonymously, so no names for this one. This story, the title is possession, and the subtitle is, "This story also involved inebriation." But here we go.
Oh, okay.
So, Anonymous says...
So I have some plausible outs for this.
You already have some outs. I was at a dark point in my life. I was still hung up on an ex-girlfriend, and my confidence was in the toilet. My weed abuse assisted with the daily downward emotional spiral, but I wasn't able to see it or have any sense of self-worth in any way. I bring this up because, from my knowledge, ghosts link up with those that are emotionally weakened or depressed. I may be an idiot who knows nothing. Anyway, one night my roommate and I were having a bunch of people over, as was usual for a bunch of stoner boys. Before the majority of the people showed up, my roommate and a friend got started a little early. From the second I smoked this batch, something was wrong. We think it may have been spiked or sprinkled with something else, something too heavy for us to consume. But I was the only one of the three of us to experience this. We headed outside for a smoke, and it wasn't until my roommate said something that I interpreted as passive-aggressive that I snapped into this other person. I was instantly filled with rage and had a very difficult time trying to articulate myself. I could tell that the other two thought something was definitely weird about me, but they figured it was me just being some weirdo. Mm-hmm. I was so mad that I couldn't think straight. I don't even remember what I was mad about. The next thing I was able to know was that I was freezing cold, even in pants and a sweatshirt. I hopped into my bed and was shivering until I could get warm. I stayed in bed for a while until I felt better. The party had started and a bunch of other folks were over now. I just wanted to feel normal again, so after warming up, I went out and grabbed some water. At this time, the group didn't know that something with the weed was off, including myself, but I knew that I didn't want to smoke again. The group goes at it, and mostly everybody is okay until our friend Bobby started acting weird. He went from being his normal, cheery self to this doped-up zombie. He was sitting in our recliner, moaning, while he stared intently at everybody. He started shivering, and I instantly knew what he needed. I grabbed all of our blankets and jackets and piled them on top of him. "I know what you need, buddy," I said. And this was when I realized something crazy was going on. As I piled the last blanket on him, I looked him in the eye and smiled and said, "You doing all right?" He looked back at me, and it was definitely not Bobby that I was looking at. I saw something fixate on me. It was like an animal or something. Could have been staring straight into the eyes of a comatose addict, and that's maybe all I saw, but it was seriously freaky. He started to smile, like, yes, this is good, and then I let it be. As the night went on, he was still acting off. He didn't get to go lay down like I did, so it didn't wear off. He started excitedly mumbling in response to our conversation and wouldn't stop after we'd moved on to a new topic. It escalated to where the room of people were saying, "Bobby, chill the fuck out." One of the fucktards we used to smoke with decided to tackle Bobby, at which point he howled in pain. We were doing illegal drugs in an apartment complex and could not afford to have been visited by the police, hence the freak out.
That would happen sometimes, yeah.
He started crying and was shivering. Somebody took him home. Anyway, I would have thought it was just an insane trip-out experience, but because he experienced the same shit I was going through, it was a little too spooky for me to say that's all it was, especially when we were the only two to experience that. Oof. The creepiest thing about this story to me is the eyes, like, tracking him like an animal does. Like, you know that.
Yeah. You know when you're in the gaze of a predator.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know it. It's like even if those eyes are human eyes, like you have a sense and it just squigs you out.
Yeah.
First of all, anonymous.
First off, a little.
Anonymous, thank you for sharing that with me. I mean, obviously, no one wants to admit their vulnerabilities or come forward with things they might not be the most proud of. But so thank you for telling the story. From my experience, I can tell you that it sounds like a really bad batch that unleashed.
From your experience, huh?
Just like it just sounds like, yeah, there's something going on there where it's like, yeah, part of it's your psyche, but the thing is, like, your brain is one giant nerve and receptacle, and can be like every neuron can be every neuron and every
what's interesting
different
to
part
me
of the brain can be pushed and pulled in different ways,
What's interesting,
if
though...
If a drug unleashes that, then you're definitely going to maybe dissociate, or you're going to...
Well, for them to both have a similar experience without talking about it, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's like that thing of if one person is high and they're like, hey, do you see that? Somebody else might be like, yes, I do, because you've suggested it to them. But
maybe this strips you of your your frontal lobe, and it releases your reptile brain, that kind of like fight, like predatory, but also at the same time the side effect is it screws with your temperature gauge, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, oh, it turned your thermostat way down, so your body's like, I need more heat.
Well, what's interesting too, I've kind of talked to you about this theory before, is that part of why when people are depressed, I always ask them, like, have you been sitting at home for a long time? Like, hey, do you want me to pick you up and let's go somewhere else? Like, even let's just go hang out outside. I feel like when you have strong emotions, those can kind of become its own entity.
Yeah.
So, like he was saying, it was a pretty dark point in his life. If he's sitting with these feelings every day, having this, it can almost make, like, the way I explain it to people is, if I walk into the house of somebody that's been really depressed or something, it's like it feels like a cloud, like a little storm cloud that just kind of floats into that space.
Yes,
and if you don't clear that out a little bit,
they air it out.
So it's just, I wonder if that almost took on its own entity, and just that all of those emotions then getting high, whatever was in the weed that they smoked, just made them more susceptible to actually feeling that and having it kind of affect them.
Because if you have that kind of actual physical, like, it's there and it hangs in the air, right? Like smoke, and basically you need two sets of fans. You need to open the back door, open the front door, and put some fans going, and get some clean air. And in the meantime, you need to step in some sunshine and listen to a message from somebody who cares about you to kind of get leveled.
Yeah, so I mean, even if that's not paranormal in the sense that people are like,
but if you're feeling that, you need to, like, it would do you good to reach out to somebody and let them know how you're feeling.
Yeah, get out of that cloud, because if you keep feeding it, it's just going to keep bouncing back at you.
Yeah, because I'm not an advice giver. I'm not by any means a reputable psychologist.
You're not a reputable source of information.
But I'm also a sufferer of this disease. It's depression, and whether you are at the highest of highs in terms of, like, material or worldly success, you could still feel the fangs of this thing sink its teeth into you. And so at that point, when you're feeling that lowest of lows, drugs might help. They might.
They might. Well,
but the thing is, like,
what we're reading here too is he didn't say that he was using weed. He said abusing.
Right. He did say he was
we can take that.
It.
Yeah. I mean, anything. Because I know a lot of people can use that as something that can help them physically, mentally. But if it's any prescription drug, non-prescription drug is at the point of abuse, then it's no longer benefiting you. And it looks like he was able to acknowledge that at this point in his life,
right,
he had that just cloud hanging over him. He was abusing drugs, and then it's almost like, I feel like it's almost like this thing had a life of its own and just affected the two of them, because for whatever reason maybe they were both more likely. More
that you wouldn't, like, basically if there was a US FDA nutritional label of ingredients and you looked at it and you saw, like, marijuana, like cannabis, THC, CBD, and then, like, PCP.
Yeah, you're like, oh, no, thanks.
No,
I'll
thanks.
That one.
I don't want that. So we don't know what it is, but, hopefully with them.
It's interesting, though, that nobody else seemed to really be affected by it. Like, maybe they were like, whoa, this is strong, but they didn't seem to have any.
And at least on the bright side,
negative effects.
I think that we may know who this anonymous is, and we know that they're better off now. So they've kind of come out of it, right?
It sounds like whoever this was, they're definitely much better now.
Right. So
because they're talking about this from a point in time.
It definitely is in past tense. So I want to recognize that, hey, they're not still in this state.
No, but the other interesting thing that they brought up, because it was titled possession is if maybe there was something in that apartment that was drawn and feeding off of
the fact that Bobby became not Bobby.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is maybe it wasn't as simple as just like that negativity.
Yeah.
They do say that a lot of the time if there are negative entities that some people call, demons or just different types of beings that may feed off of that, they very well could have been drawn to that environment from the negative feelings that he was having, and then when he consumed that drug, he put himself into that state where he was more vulnerable. Because here's the interesting thing I wanted to bring up.
But there's also like the flip side of that on like hallucinogens like mushrooms and LSD.
Yeah.
Like it's good to have a coach because basically you can enter into a negative feedback loop, and basically like if you start to think about the negative things, then you arc into.
Well, what's interesting to me though is this wasn't happening to two people at the same time ever.
Right.
So it seems like once our anonymous they were no longer under the influence of that entity and they had felt a little better, they had slept it off, so to speak, that's when it seems to almost as if it's like jumps into Bobby.
Yeah.
So it's like this person goes out into the other room and suddenly Bobby's not Bobby anymore.
But Bobby
and that's
just
interesting.
smoked the weed.
But that's what I'm saying. If it makes you more susceptible,
Uh-huh.
as this drug is wearing off and Anonymous is no longer as susceptible, it picks a new target. Somebody that's, you just smoked, let's go to you.
All right.
That's kind of an interesting take on that. Obviously, we don't know, but it's interesting to think about.
It's like the Fallen version. Like, anybody see the 1998 Denzel Washington, John Goodman movie Fallen?
Yes.
Where it's like, it's a possession movie, but it's a very good possession movie. Basically, as a demon called the Zazel jumps from body to body.
You know what I think this lesson here is? Sage and smudge your house before you smoke.
I was just gonna say, find a friend with a medical card, or get a medical.
Yeah, buy it from somewhere reputable,
or get a medical card yourself
if you can. But that's true though. Is that if you're in a dark point, I do think that there are things out there, other entities, other life forms, spirits, what have you, that can maybe pick on us or attach themselves to us or take advantage of the fact that you're at a lower point in life, or that if you're, using something that puts you in an altered state, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or even just, the strong emotions.
I don't know if I believe that.
I know you don't.
But look at me.
You're kind of like rolling your eyes a little bit.
A little bit, but I don't know that I believe that. But I definitely know there are certain situations I'm like, no, I'm not going to fuck with that. That might be black magic. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. And that's why it's so funny, because you'll be like, no. And then I joke and I'm like, do you want me to bring a Ouija board over? And you're like, no.
I'm just,
like, why not?
Because I'm risk averse, right? Like it's like the
let's take some pictures.
It's the Pascal's wager of like, hey, let's avoid this. Like, what benefit?
Maybe
is
the
this?
curmudgeon is cracking. We're
No.
getting to him.
No.
We're getting to him. Well, I have one more voicemail here.
It's sure to be a fun one.
Let's play this for our last one.
Hello, fellow space engineers. Eric lachappa here to let you guys in on a little ditty that happened to me
Pause
about
it.
3 summers back.
Pause All right, Space Engineers.
I don't know.
That's a Steam game. So, first of all, Eric, I don't play Space Engineers. Hello, fellow Space Engineers. All right, I like you, Eric.
I like it so far.
But I want to sit you down.
Well, let's see where it's going. Let's see where this goes.
All right.
Visiting the Grandpappy in the good old Grand Canyon, that's right. When I was out one night listening to the sounds and the songs of the coyotes, I came upon a sound my ear had never quite picked up yet before. When I studied it closer, I realized it was whispers. Whispers of the wind telling me, "Kill the white man." The whispers said, "Kill the white man." They said it again. The whispers came upon me as if to say, "Lachappa, fucking get him." And so, I left that place and never went back because that was fucking terrifying.
Okay.
All right, that's the end of that.
That's it.
I was like, okay. Space Engineers. Either that's a video game reference or it's a reference to like the Prometheus Alien Covenant movies. Eric. Is there a whiter name than Eric?
I know. I was
It's
like,
the first,
did it?
It's the first Viking to land in America, Eric Erickson. Like,
I couldn't tell you.
And then it's like,
Kill
the white man. And then
well, that's why he left. He was scared.
Yeah. But he did it like the old Italian like spaghetti western like Hollywood version of like, how now, white man? Like, kill the white man.
Oh,
like,
stop.
It just,
Let's not even go there, please.
Casual racism?
Yes. Let's
Okay.
avoid all racism. Casual or blatant, por favor.
I didn't bring it into the conversation. Eric did, because he's hearing shit at the Grand Canyon. I would want to at least spend time amongst the Navajo before I attempted to impersonate them.
Hey, he didn't specify.
Okay, or the Ohono, or the...
Oh, wow, look at here.
Or the Havasupai.
Are you gonna... All right, keep going. List more. There's
done.
more.
No, I'm done.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
giving me a real bratty look like, I know history and things.
I actually don't.
Okay. You're giving me a look like you do.
No, that's the 1 week area, and I feel like the next year I'm going to be, focusing on two things. Is one, eliminating debt, and two, learning about Native American history.
Well, I would actually love to hear. There's a lot of rich history around here of Native American legends. Somebody brought up skinwalkers. The thing is, I know a lot of people don't like to discuss it.
Right.
But I would be really interested if there is anybody that has family that is Native American, has a friend that's Native American, that is Native American, that would want to tell us a little bit of information about their local legends. That would be really interesting.
I don't want to change the course of the podcast, but at the same time...
Well, no, but we can hear about their legends. They have a lot of really interesting legends. Some of them we will discuss on here, but it's much more interesting to hear it from
for example,
the source.
like the Navajo Nation is basically the northeast quadrant of Arizona, right? Like basically, if you divided Arizona into quadrants, it'd be the northeast quadrant, because you get about to Flagstaff and the Navajo Nation starts, right?
I think it starts before that, but okay.
A little bit before, but right, it's basically the top right corner of all of Arizona. That's the Navajo Nation. As we've given it to them, right? Yeah. As the U.S. government is designated.
Oh, yes, as we've given them.
Given them,
okay.
Right. So even my descriptors...
I was like, I don't think that's actually...
Are very harsh.
Accurate.
But here's something I learned from a curse...
You mean that's the part we didn't steal from them?
Right. Why didn't we steal it? Well, have you driven out there? It's like, I've driven out there by the meteor...
We took it all and then went, oh, well, we'll give you a little bit back.
By Meteor Crater and up by, on the way to Page, and it's like, oh, there's fucking nothing out here. There's nothing. You can't, there's no agriculture. It's all, it's a desolate wasteland. It's pretty, but in that way where you can't sustain yourself off of it. But one of the things I learned is that the ancestral home of the Navajo is in Alberta, Canada.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From the people that they're from are way up north. Some of them, yeah. Yes, and I found that fucking fascinating, because like you and me and probably most of our listeners, we learn things by states. Like, oh, we're from Utah. That means we're most likely. From the designated Mormons, which we went on the trail, and we have ties to Missouri and upstate New York, because those are the two places that people have moved. And then we don't make necessarily designations. Like, my family is from Nebraska, and from before that Ohio, Maryland, and then Wales, Ireland, two places in Ireland. Germany and Poland, and it's like, okay, well, that's kind of weird, but when you think about where the Native Americans go, we always still think of them as state to state, but they were borderless. They had the whole continent
before we were
right.
Here.
They had the whole continent. Well, not even that, but the fact that the Native Americans were in stasis, or they were kind of in a world that they lived in peacefully and without interference up until the 1500s, and then we introduced horses, and we radically changed their culture, and so their culture radically changed through old world influence. Before then, the U.S. government and the Canadian government and the Mexican government came in. At least this is for North America. Just really fascinating. I want to dive into it, but that's
and
me.
This has been semi-accurate history time with
right.
Nicholas Jones.
It's me just kind of talking about, like, this is kind of a thing I'm thinking about.
Well, this is a podcast where we talk about paranormal and things like that, but we also talk about anything that some people would consider religious.
Things that are true.
We also talk about, we also have to talk about where legends and stories come from.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely love it if we could find somebody that would be willing to tell us a little bit about maybe some legends that they would be willing to share.
Right.
Give us some more information about history. Give us some true history lessons.
Yeah, somebody come on the podcast. Talk Past.
Come teach Nick
Come on the
things.
Talk Past.
I said get a drink. How many drinks have you had?
This is number 2.
Okay.
But how about that? Like, the dyslexic of podcasts is talk past.
Yeah, there you go.
And how much time do we spend in our lives talking past each other?
Well, with you, it's kind of hard not to. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Joke. It was a joke. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for sending in your stories and for leaving us voicemails. I think sometimes people forget that you can do that. We have the phone number on our Facebook, and it's on our website on the About section. Anytime you have something that you feel would be best in your own words, or you don't feel like typing it out, I feel ya. Give us a call. Leave us a voicemail.
Did Ophelia call?
No, Ophelia didn't call.
She's been on my mind since before the flood. But yeah, anyway, if you do leave a message, obviously we may play it on the show.
And as Nick has said, not said, but shown us, you don't have to be sober to be on our podcast.
Yeah,
you can feel free if you're drinking one night talking with buddies, and
neither does Eric.
And you hear a story that you have to share. Your friend's telling you a story. Tell them, wait, shut up. Call us, wait for the voicemail, and then say, all right, go, and let them talk into the phone. We would love to hear your stories, guys. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, follow us on iTunes. Pretty please subscribe. Where can they tweet at us?
At CF Kermudge.
You can.
Or at Nicholas Edward J.
Yeah, you can tell him your opinions and feelings.
Right.
You can yell at him.
My current Twitter handle is Penultimate Jedi.
Okay. Well, you can find him there.
In anticipation of the new Star Wars release, The Last Jedi.
Anticipation?
Yeah, we're recording this before the
And you can
movie's out.
also email us at campfirecurmudgeon@gmail.com. Campfirecurmudgeon.com is where you can find all of the stuffs. Thanks so much, guys. Keep the campfire burning.
Yeah, put a Duraflame on it.
Bye.
Bye.